Hello YouTube, Dave here again. Welcome to day number 2 of our D&D accessory week. So this week I'm just going to be going over some of the different types of accessories that I have for the Dungeons & Dragons role-playing game, although most of these are going to be useful for any type of tabletop role-playing game, especially the topic of today's video, which is going to be all about dice. So dice, what I mean by that is just, the sets of dice that you can find, some of the older, more collectible ones that you may want to look for if you're into collecting, as well as just ways to get dice nowadays and which ones I recommend over the others. So the first thing I want to do is just kind of show off some of the older sets of dice that I have in my collection. And these would be ones that would be considered collectible because they are official releases from Wizards of the Coast, specifically for the Dungeons & Dragons role-playing game. Now, some of the most sought after or collectible dice out there would be some of the original dice that came with the old school box sets, ones where you actually had to have like a crayon and mark the numbers in. I don't own any of those, but I do have some that came out in the 3rd edition era, from the 4th edition era, as well as the more modern ones. So just kind of quickly, like I said, just kind of go over some of them here. So the first thing I want to show here is just the 30th anniversary Dungeons & Dragons dice. This came out during the 3.5 days, so this came out back in 2004. And what it had was just one 4-sided dice, 4 6-sided, 1 8, 1 d10, 1 percentile, a d12, and a d20, but it also included a dice bag. So this is one of the the first actual official set of dice that I ever purchased. And so here's what you got here. So they came in, a dice bag here. The thing I don't like about this dice bag is that it ties from the side instead of most other dice bags, which I'll show off here sort of later on. And this one frayed almost immediately at the ends there. But inside you had, so these were your dice that came with it. Now again, they're just very basic flat colors. But the thing that I like about those, and oops, that was just an extra dice that I had thrown in there, which should go actually in a different dice bag, so let me just set that aside right now. But what was great about these ones, and the reason that I kind of like these dice, is I like them for beginners. And the reason that I say that is for someone who's just starting their tabletop role-playing experience, saying things like, oh, roll the d20 or roll 1d12 or roll 3d6 can be a little bit difficult for new players to begin, or to get their heads around and understand. But being able to say, pick up 3 of the red ones or 2 of the red ones, roll the orange one for your attacks or saving throws or skill checks, right? Or, the black one is for your dagger type of thing. So having them be sort of different colored makes sense for beginners. And these dice were the ones that were being thrown in with all of the 3rd edition starter set products. Now, I don't have my original ones because I don't really want to have a whole lot of duplicates. But the original starter sets came just like this. So these would be the dice that you would get in them. They didn't have the percentile dice, although I think the basic game for 3.5 I think actually did have a purple percentile. But the 3.0 adventure game, for example, just came with those, and they were all a different color, so you would understand which one to roll at any given time. So that's, like I said, just one of the earlier examples. Now, again, this is more of a collectible product for people looking to buy just sets of dice to use in the role-playing game today. This isn't really going to be all that practical to try to go out and find because it is difficult to come across these days. But I just thought I would kind of show that off just because I like the way that they had, like I said, the different colored dice and the reason why. Also, quickly, just thought I'd show off, these are the Dungeons & Dragons Essentials role-playing dice. These came out back in the 4th edition D&D Essentials time. So this has 9 dice total. It has 4 6-sided dice, 1 4-sided, 1 8-sided, 1 10-sided, 1 12, and 1 20. So this was lacking the percentile dice as well. Let's just go ahead and just quickly pop this open. Now this also came with a dice bag, and I like this one a lot better just because it has the nice logo and everything. but it has the drawstring instead of the one where you have to try to tie it and hope that it stays tied. So again, just having a look inside here. So these are our dice, just have sort of like the swirl pattern there. And these ones had silver numbers. So again, this is something that's pretty considered more of a collector's item at this point in time, so not the most practical thing to come across. So how are you going to find official Dungeons & Dragons role-playing dice nowadays easily? So instead of having to go and try to find things like this, which were like $14 I think back in the day, now would probably go for 50 or 60. But there are ways to get dice for the D&D game. Now there is the often talked about Tomb of Annihilation dice set. I'm not going to show these off again just because I've done this in numerous videos. Honestly, I don't recommend these really at all because they're the most expensive set that I've owned at retail, and they're really kind of generic. I mean, they're basically like these, only just an olive green type of thing. So now again, if you're a collector and you want sort of a collector's item, then this absolutely works. But if you're just someone who wants dice for the role-playing game, this is probably not the best product to use. If you're looking for just a quick and simple set of dice, but you want them in an official Dungeons & Dragons product, the 5th edition starter set comes with its own set of dice. Now there's just the 1d4, 1d6, a d8, d10, d12, and d20, so it is missing the percentile dice as well. Now the pattern is very similar to the D&D Essentials dice, so it's kind of got that same sort of like a swirl pattern in it, which I really like. The difference is that it has white numbering instead of silver numbering, so it's a little bit more basic. But again, if you want something that comes with an official Dungeons & Dragons product, the starter set has a workable set of dice as well as some characters and stuff like that. But again, not the most practical if you're just looking for dice. So my recommendations would be to use just the standard sets of dice that you can find at any local game store. And there's a few different varieties that they come in. Now, when I first started playing Dungeons & Dragons, when I first discovered tabletop role-playing games, the sets of dice came like this. Now, this is actually the very first set of dice I ever owned, and I've put these into retirement, so I don't use these anymore. It's sort of a dice superstition thing that I talked about in an earlier video. But these were the way that dice sets came back when I first started playing in 1999. And what you had were, it was 9 dice in the set with 3 6-sided dice. It wasn't until after 3.5 came out and was really popular that sets of dice started, or companies started putting in a 4th d6 when that sort of became like the standard D&D character generation method. But before then, it was just the 3d6, and now you didn't have to necessarily get them all different colors. This was just the way that these sets came, the ones that I had. But you could also find these in just the basic colors, and they have like the sparkle kind of sort of semi-translucent with the sparkles that you can see through them. These are really cool. I like these dice quite a bit, but again, these served me for quite some time, so I kind of put these to rest. The more modern looking ones come like this if you're looking for the tubes, and these are just a few of the different styles. So again, you can get those sparkly dice. You can also get speckled dice, and this is from Kaplow. Yeah, this is from Kaplow. And again, I like getting these ones more. I'll show another type you can get here as well in a moment. But these ones come with 10 dice in the tube, 46. So like I said, that's sort of the new standard for the multi-D6 sets. And you can also get just the basic translucent ones. So these ones here are orchid colored. But you can get them, again, in a variety of colors. The tubes, actually, as long as you're careful with them, can hold up pretty decently. But if you're putting them in backpacks, just maybe make sure that you can put them in a separate compartment where they're not going to have things weighing up against them. So if you want to transport them, that is a way you can sort of do it. So another thing that you can, another set of dice that you can get comes from the company Chessex. And so what they have, they come in sort of just like a square, sort of rectangular plastic case that has like a black bottom that you can kind of pull off. And I don't have any of the cases left. Unfortunately, I gave those all away when I bought the sets of dice. But what's different about the Chessex ones is they come in just 7 dice in a set, so it's 1 of each die. And there's just a few examples of the ones that I have. So this is actually the very first set of the Chessex dice that I ever bought. Now this is Smoke, and it doesn't really show up too well, I don't think, on camera. But these are actually there, where you can see a little bit better with my hand behind, but these are actually translucent, and you see like the smoky swirly pattern in the background. So they come in sets of 7. The one thing that I've noticed lately, and I don't know when this changed because there was quite a period of time when I wasn't buying dice, but when I first started getting these sets, like these ones here, I think they were around $8 for a set of these dice because there was fewer of them, and these sets would go for like $10, $11, or $12 depending if it had the 4d6 or the 3d6, and that was sort of like the standard price. Now the price for these sets hasn't really changed a whole lot. They still tend to be around $12 to $13. Now of course these are also Canadian dollar prices that I'm giving you, but what I found, and what's sort of disheartening to me at least, is that these Chessex dice in the stores that I've gone to, and again these are actual game stores here in the Atlantic provinces in Canada, is that these seven die sets are going for the same price as these ones. So I found a couple of stores where there was literally no difference in price. It was like $12 for these dice or $12 for these, and given the options, I would never choose having less dice for the same price as having more. In fact, the day that I picked these up, they actually had the Chessex versions as well, and that's when I discovered that they were the same price, because I looked at both of them and they were both going for $12. Now that may not be typical of where you were living as the viewer, but where I live, that's just the pattern that I've noticed. Now it could have been maybe, hopefully, just a mispricing, but I don't think that's the case. It seems like these sets of dice, for whatever reason, just all go for like a standard price. So if I had to recommend a particular brand of dice, the Chessex ones do tend to have wider varieties in most stores that I've seen, and most stores that I've gone to tend to stock them more than the others now, like the Kaplow. And I'm not sure why exactly. I don't know if it's just easier to get one in over the other, or if the distributors prefer one over the other. I mean, if this is at $12 and these are at $12, to me this is the higher profit product. But I would just always urge, if they're the same price or if they're even relatively close in price, to go for the one with the more dice. But in addition to just your standard sets of dice, there's got to be ways to carry them. So like I said, you can use the tubes, you can use the plastic hard case that these ones come in, but those don't necessarily hold up well over time. Now I've shown the official Dungeons & Dragons dice bags, but I do have a couple of other dice bags as well. So this is just sort of my larger green one. These are just very, very basic. I've seen a lot of more fancier dice bags out there that I kind of wish I had. One is sort of like a knitted beholder, and it just looks amazing, but I've never seen it in stores where I live. But this is what would be considered a larger dice bag. It holds quite a few sets. And then I've got just a more standard sized one here, and you can sort of see the size comparison there. So again, I've got a lot of sets of dice. But so yeah, if you have multiple sets and you're worried about transportation, a few different things that you can do. So these dice bags, I haven't actually seen too many of these on sale lately, but when I got these ones, they were around, I think, $7 to $10 each. So I think this was around $7 or $8, and this was around $10, I believe. But there's other alternatives as well. Like when I first started playing D&D, I used to carry my dice around in a pencil case, and then when when that kind of died because the zipper broke, then I would start carrying them around the tubes. But the tubes would break just because of the weight of like books and stuff pressing up against them. So that's when I discovered the dice bags. So again, just a few thoughts on dice, just showing off some of the ones that I have in my collection and some of the ones that you can pick up yourself. So again, just sort of recap, if you're a hardcore collector and you want to go back through D&D's history, then you can try to find these official sets of dice. But again, the older ones are going to be quite pricey. There were also ones for 3.0, and there was a set of dice that came out for the regular 4th edition, which I never picked up. But so these are, again, the more expensive, difficult to find ones, especially if you want the dice bags and the boxes. That can go for quite a bit. Only recommended for hardcore collectors. Same thing for the Tomb of Annihilation dice. These are a lot easier to find, but again, they're going to be expensive compared to the other sets that you can pick up. Like you can pick up basically 2 sets of dice for the price of this. The only advantage is that you get a tin, which you can, cart your dice around in if you pull out the foam inserts. But again, I consider this to be more of a hardcore collector's thing. Of course, the Dungeons & Dragons starter sets usually come with a set of dice as well. So if you're just looking to get the bare minimum to start playing the game, and you want to start getting into playing the game, then I just recommend picking up a copy of the D&D starter set, just to get a very basic set of dice that everyone can share, and you can start playing. Then, of course, there are the Chessex ones and the Kaplow dice. Of the two, where I live, it makes more sense for me to pick up the Kaplow dice because they're almost the exact same price as the ones that come with fewer, and of course just a few dice bags and things to carry them around in. So anyway, that was this video. I hope you enjoyed, and let me know some of your dice stories, how you carry your dice around, how you store them, do you separate them, which company do you prefer? Let me know all that in the comments below. I look forward to it. And again, thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you've been enjoying this D&D Accessories week so far. Be sure to come back tomorrow for another one. I think tomorrow we're going to look at some ready-made maps. So until then, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.